Are you ready for me?
Okay, with Jason Stewart, Redlining is the short film. I asked him if he was ready for the podcast. You said you've been
I
ready
have
since
been
the
ready
70s.
since the 70s. I have been
They didn't
doing
have
this.
podcasts in the 70s though.
Well, we did radio interviews and TV interviews. Now we're
Yeah.
doing it all in one.
Do you miss the old terrestrial radio? They still have. I guess they're still around a little bit. I guess, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to meet people, but I do like doing it from my office. I can get more things done. I don't have to drive anywhere, don't have to look for a parking spot, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, you used to be able to call them on the phone, I guess, right? But I
Right,
guess,
right. I
yeah,
do miss doing interviews rather than doing Q&As.
gotcha. All
I
right,
do
let's do
miss
an
that.
interview then. So,
Right.
Redlining short film, fantastic LGBTQ plus festival. First of all, explain what redlining is for people who don't know.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for saying it was fantastic. That means a lot to me. This film comes from my heart as an artist, and that's why I do this stuff. It's still the love of the work. Redlining is about the idea. I guess people call it gerrymandering now. When you go to see a map and you see a red line around it, you see black people live here, Jewish people live here, gay people live
Seems to
there.
be in the news these days. Yeah.
Yes, quite a bit. So I thought that when I was doing it, it seemed like something that was very of the moment.
So, but it's basically about like redlining is about the health, like
It's a very, very big subject matter, but yet my film is a small
yeah.
story about two different families in the big subject matter and how they deal with it.
So okay, so it's set in Georgia. This one's set in happens to be set in Georgia, correct?
Savannah, Georgia, 1974, 1978, 81, and 14.
It is based on a true story.
No, not at
Okay.
all. The characters are all taken from my life, and they're people that were my family members, people that were I knew. So I took personalities and personality traits, and I sort of sometimes they're two people. They're an amalgamation of two people, and sometimes they're just one person. And each, even though it is a short film, each character could be a film unto themselves. I did so much research.
They could be. Well, it's almost like a proof. Almost found sounds to me when I watched it. It was like a proof of concept, meaning that
A lot
it
of
could
people
be
have said
a
that.
feature film, right?
It could be, it's about money and it's about that thing. But whenever I do something, I finish it and then I want to go on to the next. So unless
Yeah.
somebody offers me a lot of money to do it or a nice amount of money to do it, I'm on to my next project.
Well, here's the thing: gerrymandering, all that stuff is so important. It's like so important, and it's like it affects elections. It's gonna affect this November midterms, and nobody knows. Nobody writes stories about it because it's boring. It's boring. It's not boring, but it's hard to minimize in one sentence and tell an entertaining story about it. I guess.
Well, because it's legal to some respects that you're
Yeah.
allowed to do that every 2 years in terms of politics, but in terms of living situations, I remember my mom would say to me when I was a kid, we moved into a neighborhood, and when the Jews moved in, I'm Jewish, the
Yeah.
Christians moved out, and then when the Jews moved in, then the blacks moved in, and then some of the Jews moved out, so it got better. Not everybody. We didn't move, and I remember my mom telling me that years later, and I had no idea that was happening, and that they want to keep a neighborhood a certain way. It's also all about generational wealth and the
Yeah.
idea that every single minority or every single group of minority of people have come to this country from someplace else, and they've come here like the Jews went into the clothing business, the Italians went into the restaurants, the Irish went into the bars. They all had places where they could go, and there was mishbrucha, which means family of some sort, chosen family, and certainly gay people have helped each other. But in the black community, they weren't allowed to. There were laws created.
Yeah.
They would physically be harmed and murdered. So they were the only group that wasn't allowed to do that and didn't have a place to go to. They weren't even allowed to own their own businesses. It was very, very difficult. So I wanted to show that by not hitting people on the head with it, but by seeing what happened to the people and how the choices that they made were to be treated as somewhat as equal. So you could have a place where your kid could grow up and not get hurt. And you see what happens to each of the characters in our film.
And this is just recent too, right? This is in the last 50 years. Like
Oh
people don't
yeah,
realize
yeah,
how
definitely.
people's like it's like racism is dead, but yeah.
Yeah, they
And
always say, "Oh, that's
generational wealth. is the
Yeah,
big deal, right? Where yeah,
people say, "Oh, that's handled." That's we don't need
yeah,
to do it anymore. Well, if you're a gay person, if you're a Jewish person, if you're, black, I don't think it. I remember when the ICE thing came up, I called Dalila Ali Raja and Kareem Ferguson, who were two of the stars and producers of the film, and the first thing they both said, and Kareem is from Belize and Dalila is from Sacramento, so they could not be more from different areas. They both said, "Okay, now you know what it feels like." This is
yeah,
what it feels like. And I thought, wow, two people from different areas that just happen to have darker color skin than I did, who were like brother and sister to me, were that close. And it was the same answer. So it's there's a unitedness in that. It's also so sad that this is still going on in our country, and we've gone back in time and we don't learn from our mistakes. And that's
yeah,
something I wanted to show, and how difficult it even is. I mean, showing the mother who's a battered mom in the film with an incredibly beautiful portrayal, I think, by Alexandra Paul, aging 40 years. And if people know her from Baywatch and other things, I would say there is life after Baywatch.
oh
And
yeah, okay, now, okay, yeah, that makes sense now, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And just wonderful. And Lee Garlington playing my sister, who also co-wrote the script with me, and she has been in close to 300 film and TV shows. She's had like 10 different series, 20 different recurring roles. She makes my 160 or 70 jobs seem like nada.
yeah,
So I work with some really incredibly gifted and prolific actors, and I was really that was really important to me. I wanted, when I do something, there's two or three things that I need. I want, number one, I want us to have a good time. Number two, it has to mean something to me. And number three, the work has to be good. We all have to take the work seriously, but not take ourselves seriously.
yeah. And it's in terms of the story, it's like it's that fine line of entertainment and being heavy-handed, I guess, right? Where like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. And
yeah,
also the idea of it being emotional and that you connect with, and
yeah,
you can see how this could happen.
yeah,
People don't,
I,
if it's in your backyard. I remember once I was sitting in an airport going to a gig, and I was reading the USA Today, and there was this article about people who knew LGBTQ people and people who didn't. And there was a much bigger percentage of people who accepted LGBTQ people in their lives because, they had them already.
of course,
They knew
and they all
them.
do, but they just didn't realize it. And now, when
Or
they
they
do,
didn't realize it, or they actually didn't. There are a lot of people that don't have. I have a cousin that has a different feeling about black people and what was going on with Black Lives Matter than I did, and I totally disagreed with him. And he said, "Well, I know black people." I said, "Well, do you know? Have you been to their home? Did you meet their mom? Do
yeah,
you know? Are those your real friends?" It's a big difference in your life when somebody is a close friend, then and part of your chosen family, than people that are you just happen to work with in a factory, and then they're on the other side of the factory or the other side of the office or on a different
yeah,
floor, and you see them, hey Marge, hey Bill, every day or whatever.
yeah. And like in the last 25, just to use the LGBT comment, gay, lesbian comment, is that in the last 25 years, people were started coming out. I'm from like a small town, so basically Niagara Falls. I know people who are gay, and they've never come out because it's like this is my generation, right? Just because they didn't have the chutzpah or whatever you want to call it to do it, and it's like I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but then I
No, and it
remember,
was. I mean, and it's still happening. I was at a bar a year and a half ago, I think, and there was this guy. It was Leather Week, and a guy was there, and he had the whole leather garb on with the nipple things and the whole thing, and the I don't know, the
yeah,
nose ring and all the the garb. And he started talking to me like this, and he said, I said, "Where are you from?" He says, "Oh, just a little town in Georgia. You probably don't know it." And he told me the name of it. And I said, "How do you how is it being gay there?" He says, "Well, you just don't bring it up." I said, "Well, what do you
yeah,
do?" And he shook my hand, and his hands were very worn. And I said, "What do you do?" He says, "Well, I'm a mechanic. I fix school buses." And this is his job. I said, "Well, what do you do about the nipple things?" And he said, "Well, I just push it in and I put a baggy or shirt on, and nobody knows about it." And his daughter from his first marriage, and he lives in his garage apartment, and his with her boyfriend, and so there's a whole different kind of family
Yeah.
that is created from somebody who came out and became a more flamboyant version of our community. When he goes out and he goes out to an event, he has a leather alike,
Yeah.
which like, a lot of straight guys love to see girls in lace and and all sorts of sexy things, and a lot of gay guys like to see guys in leather, and it's just a proclivity of sorts. And I thought, wow, this guy, and it was 2025 or 2024 when I met him, is still having the same problem. And as you see in our story at the end, I'm ruining the end for people, but uh, you see in the end that you really don't notice that these two characters are lovers,
Yeah.
and you don't do, until the end. Some people notice it. There's a discussion of the mother and son. But we never hit it on the nail. We talk about it the way they would talk about it.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
And like my dad always used to say to me, my dad's from Poland. He would say, "Why can't you just be gay and just shut up about it? Bob and Tom, they live up the block. They're gay. No one knows." I said, "Dad, everyone knows. You just told me of everything. You make everything such a big deal, you know."
But at the
And
same time, he was listen. Listen. He was talking to you though, right? Like a lot of
oh, of
fathers wouldn't even
course.
talk to their son, right?
I mean, I
So he,
remember around
yeah,
5 years before he died, he came by my apartment one day, and we were standing at the door. And it was an outside. I had an outside terrace in my apartment in Hollywood when I lived there. And he was stood there, and he said, "Yeah, are you seeing anybody now?" And he had never ever said that to me. And I turned my head, and I remember I almost choked because he hated seeing a lot of emotion.
yeah,
And I said, "Yeah, I do. I'm seeing this guy, named Raul or whatever at the time, I think I was." And it was just such a touching moment for me. And there's another part in the film that when I have the discussion with my mom,
your
why did you?
character, in the film as well. Basically,
Oh yeah, oh yes, I play the son.
yeah,
That's the older version of the son,
yeah,
as Kareem Ferguson does, and then a wonderful actor named uh, oh god, Nathan Walker plays me younger. And when in the film there's that scene where she says, "Well, I knew you were before you knew you were."
yeah,
And people don't always get that. And he said, "Why'd you take me on that trip to New York City?" Well, my father took me to San Francisco in the early 70s. And I asked him on his deathbed, I mean, the week that he passed away, I said, "Dad, why did you do that?" And he just looked at me. He said, "Because you needed it." And wow, because all those years I didn't want to ask because I didn't want to hear him say, "I wanted to make a man out of you," kind of thing. And I
yeah,
put that in the film, but I put it in another character, in my mother's character. So I did a
yeah.
lot of
I
stuff.
love that scene too, and yeah.
It's
Okay, I want to,
beautiful.
I want to get to that because there's so many themes and interesting things happening in this film. A lot of subtle subtext is happening as well. Where it's 18 minutes, it's compacted, and it doesn't feel like 18 minutes either. It feels like 7 or 8 minutes because it goes quickly.
Wow, thank you.
And but I like the first scene of the film. It's like a period. I want to get to the making of the film in a second, but I just found it was this black family, and then there's like they're playing catch. He's playing catch with this white kid, and it just jumps out for me because I guess maybe I play baseball, so I'm watching. It gravitates towards the people playing catch, right?
Nothing
And
more American than baseball.
yeah, and it's simple, but there he's playing with a white kid, right, in a black 1970. It's like, and it sort of set up the symbolism of what you're trying to say in the film. That one scene, it's almost like a painting too. It's a long shot, right?
Thank you. Wow,
Yeah,
thank
there's a
you.
lot going on.
You
Basically,
caught.
and everybody's picking and choosing what they're gravitating towards. And of course, I'm saying as a baseball fan, I gravitate towards that. And then the first viewing, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. There's a white kid playing catch with the black kid at the black family's house, right? In 1974, whatever it is. It's just like, okay, it just sets up your themes. Like that first scene sets up all your themes you're trying to say in the film.
Oh, it does. It sets out more than that because
Yeah,
it starts out with the uh, black mom coming out serving sweet tea and
yeah,
Wonder Bread sandwiches with bologna, and that's what they were when we did
I
it.
don't think I've ever had bologna, by the way. Is it good? I never had
No, it's awful.
it.
It was good in the 70s, but not now.
Yeah,
And then you see the father drinking, and then you see the sister sitting there waiting for her boyfriend, and she jumps up and runs out. The pretty white girl runs to the car, runs out, and then you see the mom sift through all of that, and then she gets to to seeing if the boys want something to eat, and one of them grabs something. Then she goes to the little black girl who is the cousin, and you find out that later. And then you see the mom driving in the car, and you see her smoking. She never puts down that cigarette. That was
yeah,
my mom. Never put down that cigarette. It was so attached to her. And she's got that hair pushed up, and the hair is a little behind the times, you know. It's a little later than 74. It's a little more 1969, 70, the look,
yeah,
showing that things didn't really catch up to that. And she's wearing her capri pants, and she gets in and she gets out of the car, and then she takes a cigarette and she puts it down on the ground. Now, my mom used to do that all the time. She'd never even pick up. And then when the black family sees the white mom come in with her groceries,
yeah,
they all run to the car
yeah,
to help, except the white boy does not.
yeah,
And you see this look on his face, like I know I'm not supposed to do that. And then you see
yeah,
the mom walk in, and the husband is drinking, and he hits her on the fanny, slaps her, in a sort of inappropriate way, and she looks back at him, for a second. And then you see the black father pick up the cigarette, and then you know everything.
yeah. It's great.
And it all is
And then
done like a 1970s home movie.
that's what I meant. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like it all kind of shows it. Okay, so let's get to the period. Like it's like making a period piece.
It
It's
isn't
not
like it
easy, especially
was.
on a short film budget, right?
Oh yeah, Wonder Bread, Hawaiian Punch. You saw that stuff sticking out. My production designer prop gal was just Susan Hopper, who also plays the healthcare worker in the house. She plays the caretaker in the house. Hospice worker rather, and she was just great. And also, what's really weird is one of the makeup gals also helped her with all the props because she had all that. She was a collector of all the stuff from that period. And then you see through the brilliance of Dennis Bailey, who is our hair person, who did Mean Girls, the movie musical, and did Kiss of the Spider Woman. He's just came in and did this stuff, and the hair was just brilliant. You saw through
Yeah,
Alexandra's
it's
hair and her look
fantastic. Yeah,
from one year to the next, and each thing was just a year. You see her hair change and her look change, and you see everybody, and you see the way the two guys, the black boy and the white boy, as they grow up, you don't see them wearing cool gay guy clothes like with a little white thing here, little fashion thing. You see them wearing clothes that they look like they bought at Kmart or Kohl's or Walmart. You see, and you notice that the clothes don't fit us right. They're sort of baggy, and we're just two guys that have jobs,
yeah.
and all that was in the clothes was
What
done.
about the interior of the house? Like was
The
it?
house was redone, reimagined by Susan Hopper, and but it's Lee Garlington's house. She let us use her entire house,
Oh
and
wow. Okay.
Sean LeBlanc did all the clothes, and he was terrific. And then Amy Letterman, I think it's Letterman or Lederman. I just did a movie with her this week.
Was potato. Lederman, Letterman. Yeah.
Yeah, but she did the makeup. So she took Alexander Paul, one of the most beautiful women in
Yeah.
show business from Baywatch, and even though she said her age, she said she's around 60ish, and they made her look, we did through the wonders of photography, made her look. Billy Clift, our DP and editor, who's just wonderful, made her look younger, made us all look a little younger in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then as she aged, we spent, around $1,000 on pieces and necks and everything for
Yeah.
Alexandra's face to take this beautiful woman and make her look like she's in her late 70s.
But also executing that too. It's easy to spend the money, but it's hard to like make sure
Well,
it looks
Amy was
real.
great. She did it, and she had not done this completely, so she knows. I got people who were craftsmen who knew other craftsmen, and she had talks with him, and then she designed the makeup for Alexandra. We did a test the day before, And yeah, and we did a lot of rehearsing too. We didn't just show up and do the movie. I met with each actor individually. Alexandra lives in Oregon, and I went to Oregon to her house, and we rehearsed for a weekend and hung out with her. She's also like my best friend.
Oh, so
And
you oh, so you're like, as I'm saying, like, how did you find, like, you just asked her to
I
be in the
wrote
film?
the parts for these are all my friends. There's
Gotcha.
not if it isn't a friend, it's a friend of a friend. Every even Lena Carter, who plays the mom, did an actress. She played the part that didn't have any line, but she was so wonderful in it. She brought this reality. And then Trey, who played the dad, the black father, is a good friend of Kareem's, and that's how I met him. And he came to the reading when we did I didn't know him before. And all the children, all the two sets of kids, the tweens and the young, and then the teenage kids, those were cast by Dee Weiss, who's an old casting director friend of mine, and she's cast me a lot of times, and she did that for us because I didn't know it. We had to get kids that looked like us and were the same coloring as us, and they did. We got them, yeah.
So you're like, you're how many films you made to date? Because I know you started as a comedian, as an actor.
Well, I started as an actor and I started becoming a comedian and got really famous because I was one of the first to headline mainstream comedy clubs and I came out on television in the 1990 or
Yeah,
93.
you were on Star Search, right? I
I
remember
was on
that.
Star Search before that in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so then the first thing I did was these sketch comedy things called Jason Stewart Mania. And I did all these videos, these comedy videos that I thought would be interstitial programming. It's the only thing I ever made that didn't sell. I produced around 12, 15 different projects.
Okay, so
I,
you're always into producing and directing. You're always doing
yeah,
dabbling in
I've
something.
always, I didn't see myself that way until recently. And now I'm calling myself a filmmaker. I've directed and showrun two different short form series: Mentor with Paul Elia and Alexander Paul, and Smothered with Mitch Hara. And we had two wonderful directors, but we both, Mitch and I, both created the show, and somewhat it was a collaboration between the directors and I. And then I did another film called Like Father that I directed, a short with Denise Dowse, the late Denise Dowse playing my wife, and Nick Few playing my son. And I did that wonderful short, and I won an award, I think, for it. I can look on the wall. I think I won Best Actor for it.
I see some. So when you
So
were doing your
here.
stand up back in the
There's all
day,
the that's the awards on the wall.
yeah, when you were doing stand up back in the day, were you out then when you were doing the
No,
stand
I
up?
didn't come out till 93, and I started doing it
Okay.
in 83, 83. So I had 10 years of working in comedy clubs
Yeah.
before I came out. It just wasn't done. And also
I
I
was
didn't,
wondering about that, but it's sort of like, but then when did you start adding your homosexuality to your stand up afterwards, or?
well, I didn't add any sex acts, if that's what you mean.
No,
But
no, what I mean is that
I
you're like,
didn't
it's
say
sort
it
of like
like
this
that.
whole
Did
point
you
of
add your
view.
homosexuality?
No, no, sorry, but you know what I mean.
I'm
You're
kidding.
adding
It just sounded so funny.
you're right. Sorry, you're adding your personal life into your comedy act, and
Yeah, I
that
didn't. I did for the first 10 years. I didn't do that at all.
yeah, gotcha. And then you did. Then afterwards, you came out, I guess, right?
Yeah, and I was one of the first to play both gay and straight roles in film and television. I've been in, like I said, close to 170 or something film and TV shows. I played a white heterosexual Christian plantation owner in
Of course,
1831
you did.
in the film The Birth of a Nation,
Yeah.
starring Hammer and Nate Parker, and
You know what? I actually interviewed the director of that film back in the day,
he's
like when it
terrific.
came out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he just has another film out that just came out this year
yeah. It. I know they
with
were
David.
not happy about. They were hoping it was going to do. They were going to do better.
Well, it did pretty well. It made $16 million, and it's a
Yeah,
slave movie, so I think they did pretty well.
yeah. No, I just remember that part of the interview is that they were like they were hoping it was going to do better. They were just like a little bit
Yeah,
frustrated.
there was some scandals attached to it.
Yeah,
But you
yeah.
know, but the film for me changed my entire career, and it changed um, the way I look at black people, the way I look at all sorts of people. I was on a red carpet, and I did a lot of press for that film because I had a pretty substantial role. And some woman, a very pretty blonde woman, said to me, "How do you feel about this?" And I said, "Well, look, it's an honor, playing such a terrible person. And I said, well, it was an honor. She says, but what do you really feel? I said, what's your opinion? And I said, what I do is I take off my shoes, I put the shoes on of my black siblings, and I just shut up and listen because I don't think it's important what I feel about it. It's not my experience. And I think
Yeah.
that that's the big problem with different people. I don't want anybody telling me how it feels to be a Jew. I don't want anybody telling me how it feels to be a gay man. I think we have to, when somebody says something, we have to say, okay, that's their experience, and we have to respect them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
But
Alexandra just texted me as we're talking.
yeah. So how's she doing?
She's great.
Yeah.
She's great. She just got arrested again for, she's an animal activist, so she helped the little beagles not being tested on, and she's helped that, and she's helped the chickens not be murdered, and and put into these crates, like
Yeah.
50 in a crate. I mean, she's been she's really just an extraordinary human being. She was the first person I knew that had an electric car. She lived in Malibu. I lived in Hollywood. The only problem is she couldn't get to my house because the extension cord wasn't long enough. But all right,
No,
good
that's
night.
interesting. Yeah, because I'm sure she's a wealth of information, right? So,
Oh my God, yeah, because I'm going to get my first all electric car very soon.
oh, gotcha. You got a hybrid right now?
Yeah, I've had two. I had a Prius and I have a Kia Niro.
It just it works for today's world, right? A hybrid. So,
I think, yeah, but I think the electric is the way to go. They're everywhere, these stations. So
yeah. Well, what do you think about the Nazi owning part of the electric cars? Sorry, I don't mean to get political. I apologize.
you mean,
You don't have to answer that question.
I'm not getting a Tesla if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
No, I can't do it.
Sorry.
Can't
Just
do it.
because I married into my wife is Jewish, my kids are Jewish, so basically I married into the Jewish faith. But I'm not. I go to shul, I go to high holidays, but I don't. I'm not. I have not converted yet. So like maybe I'm Jewish on the side, I guess, probably right. So how would you describe someone like myself?
I think I'm like a weekend Jew. If that's the way I feel. I think if there's a wedding, bar mitzvah, a funeral, I'm Jewish. Otherwise, I'm just like you. But I think it's a part of who I am as a person. It's a part of my
It's more of a
personality.
culture. The biggest thing I learned is that it's more of a cultural
It is a
than a religion.
culture.
Yeah,
Yeah, very
one hundred
much so.
percent. And they stick together. I'm Italian as well, so it's like it's very similar. Italian, they love their food and they love their loyalty, and that's same way with Jews. So okay, all right. So tell me about the editing process then, because it's like it seems like you compacted a lot in this film, and it's period piece, and you're worried about making sure everybody looks good from the period to period. How was the process kind of putting the film all together? Was it always supposed to be 18 minutes?
I thought it
What
was
was
going to be shorter
okay?
myself. But when I did the film, it was around 22, 23 minutes. So,
Yeah,
because I wanted a lot of breath in the film, I wanted a lot of moments. I wanted it to be a film that didn't have an incredible amount of dialogue. I wanted to see on somebody's face. Like when you see Alexandra, Gloria, you see her after her husband crashes his car and dies. You don't see her talking about it. You see her sitting on the stoop in front of the house smoking a cigarette. And you see that pain and relief at the same time flash across her face, you know. And
yeah,
I wanted that kind of a film like Terrence Malick or Tender Mercies.
yeah.
I
Like I said
wanted
at the
that.
beginning, there's a lot of subtext happening. You're not telling us how to think or feel. There's all these kind of little hints that you're kind of
Right,
showing,
because I don't
right?
like a film I'm not a Lifetime movie person, or Hallmark. I don't want to know. I don't want you to tell me. I don't like those kind of movies as an audience because I want to know. I want to go on the ride myself, you know, and I
Yeah.
want to see something. I don't want to know what's going to happen before it happens.
There's a nice sound design too. Do you remember who did your sound design?
Yeah. Oh God, Alexander Atten. And what's funny is he had worked with me as a DP on he redid all the sound for me. He worked with me as a DP on a film I did called Hank, which I also think I got a couple of nominations for, with Neo Lee, who had directed that, a wonderful young director from China. And that was a wonderful film. So I've been really, really lucky to work with such wonderful people. And a lot of, and it's funny because I had somebody who had done my insurance on the film, and I said, "Hey, do you know anybody?" And they turned me on to him, and I'd already known him. So when I talked, and he also did the color correction. And Billy, I had worked on with in another film called Hush Up, Sweet Charlotte, which is a parody film. And I did that with him. And then I just did another film with him called Only Bears, where I had a little cameo in. So we had worked together, and he was not my original DP, but my original DP had dropped out. He was a guy that I worked with on Mentor and Like Father. So everybody was part of my family of people.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you're like, so it seems like a big family affair happening.
It's funny. Tomorrow night, I'm going into LA to. There's going to be a private screening of the film for a collective of LGBTQ and people of color organization. We're going to sit and have a discussion on the film, my film, and
Yeah.
a couple others. So that's that. I've always been like that, and I think that I've always been about the work and wanting to be with people who want to just be better, and have fun. That's important to me, to have fun. And I enjoyed every
So
minute of doing that film. I really did.
we were talking about before we were talking about like kind of progression of the community. And you've been on so many shows, right? But you did Will and Grace, right? You're on Will and Grace,
Oh
correct?
yeah, I did. I did 2 episodes.
So how was that experience? Because that's you're in third season, and it's just kind of building, right? So like even
It was very, very exciting. I was cut out of my first show, and then there was all this publicity: gay guy, gay show, gay comic, and
yeah,
I got cut out 3 days before. And then the second one, I have no, I was set. Yeah, that. And then the second one, I have a little was with Glenn Close. But wait, that was the one I was cut out. The other one I was still in. So I had a guest star put down to like one line.
yeah.
So it was very, at the time, it was very disappointing, but it was an incredible experience to be on the show because I'd never seen it. I'd done a number of sitcoms. I did Drew Carey, The Norm Show, My Wife and Kids. I recurred on that, all these shows. And they were very fun, but the audience reaction to this show was so big.
It
I
was
mean,
there was a cultural kind of momentum
yeah.
happening with
And
the
I
show,
think
right?
even when they brought the show back for 3 years, I think the show was even better because they could just be themselves, or they weren't holding back, and it
Yeah.
was so good. I love the show. I love the show. I love the experience. I'm so glad I was able to be a part of that.
But so how was that? Like, were they aware of was everybody aware of what
I
they were
think they
changing
were.
things?
I think they were, but I think there was a lot of blockage for things. It's like the kiss didn't, no kiss on the show came until years later. It's like Seinfeld couldn't say they were Jewish until the third year or something.
Did they even say that? I guess the Shawshank episode, I guess, right? Not
I
Shawshank.
think so.
Oh my God, Schindler's List episode where like he picks
Maybe
out
so,
a
but
certain.
it took years to do that, and it took years to have a kiss on the show. I mean, it's all this stuff that, and it really wears on you as a gay man.
Yeah,
For me, of age, all that stuff wears on you about your self-esteem and your place and where you are, and sort of where you fit in this society and how you're supposed to feel about it. And you know,
yeah,
people say you need to just get over it and move on. Well, it's a part of the emotional trauma that I've had to go through my whole entire life. So I have to find a place for that,
yeah.
and a way to move on. And also a way to recognize that my feelings are real.
Well, I've come to a generation where it's so funny because it says that you came out in '93, and I was a teenager when Philadelphia came out, and
Oh my God,
and
that
I
was
was like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, he's gay. He should sue. And it's like, and for me, it was like that. Why wouldn't he? Why like who cares? He's gay, right? That was the sort of my point of view when I
yeah,
was
but
a teenager.
you're not.
No. But the point, I guess, the point
Yeah,
I'm trying to make is that that's the cultural references. Like I brought up, well, Grace brought up that movie. Is that when it's in this, what's in the zeitgeist, what's in the mainstream kind of Hollywood system, it it kind of normalizes things for the next generation, and it's like, and then they don't
Yes,
care.
we set the trend. It's also
Exactly.
California. We set the trend here in California.
Yeah.
Are you
So I
are
guess
you in
I say by
California?
the
Or are
time
you
I
in
was 17, it didn't matter to me, right?
are you in California or are you in Toronto?
I'm in Toronto. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a little different there. You had gay marriage before we did.
Yeah. And now back then, back remember like Bill, like I remember Obama couldn't even say he believed in gay, like believed in gay
No.
marriage. That was
And
'07, and now it's like I think 70% of the population in the United States, a very conservative country, mind you, doesn't care about gay marriage. They believe in gay marriage. So it's like
no,
that's
no,
how much it's
yeah.
changed, right?
Now they want to stop. Now they want to think about not having gay marriage anymore. There's that on
Yeah,
the Project 25.
yeah. But at the same time, it's like it's sort of like yin and yang of society, where like once one force becomes too powerful, the other force becomes just as powerful because they want to defeat it. It's human fallacy. It's part of what we do, right? So showing them, it's sort of like the old saying where like when somebody's like doing something, it's like when they're shooting at you, that means you're doing something right. It's like when you know that they're coming after you, that means you're doing something right, right? So
Hmm.
it's just because that you're always going to have bigots in the world, right? So unfortunately, so
It's always somebody trying to
yeah,
push us down in some way. I hate to say that, but to push
that's
us
what I'm
down.
saying. You're always going to get that, right? That's how
I know.
society, that's how the world works now. All right, man. It seems like you're busy, so it seems like you're on to something new. So basically, I just think your film's great. I'm sure it's going to do well in the festival circuit,
Oh,
and
thank you.
I have no doubt about it. And it will hopefully someone will give you some money to make it into a feature.
I'm not that busy. It's overwhelming what's been going on.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good problem to
Yeah.
have, right?
Yeah, it's the scheduling of everything
No,
and
no,
stuff.
you seem to be distracted, like you're doing something else. So basically, which I totally understand, right? So you're moving
It's
on.
like, well, that's the one problem about being on the computer. It keeps popping up and, everywhere, you
Yeah,
know.
it's funny. I
Forgive
had an
me.
Amber Alert happen during our podcast right now in
I saw
Toronto.
you go like that. I saw you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like because it's the red thing that's coming at me, and I know it's sad. It's a sad thing. So basically, I get it. So
Hmm.
I understand. So all right, man. Let's talk soon, and congratulations on the success of the film. Let's talk when you make your next film.
Well, thank you. Well, that's lovely to say, and I can't wait to hear about how this whole progression with your film festival is so different and so original. So I can't wait to see how that all progresses and what I hear from everybody. So I'm going to hear things from other people. It's
Yeah,
going to be sent.
you'll get the audience feedback, and then we'll go from there.
So do I actually on the date? Will I be
We
on?
could talk about this after the podcast. I just want to wrap up right now.
Oh yes, of course. I
Thanks, man.
forgot.
All right, have a
Take
good one.
care. Bye bye.